Welcome to Tea Time, Facebook Live here on, I don't know what day it is. It's the end of December 2021. And I thought for this final tea time of 2021, I would sit out here under the same tree with Atlas as he eats a pile of hay behind me and kind of recreate our very first tea time, back when I called it Tea with Atlas. That was 2.5 years ago. So it's been a really fun sort of journey over the last 2.5 years of meeting with you guys every week and drinking tea and chatting about something that's on my mind. And I have an announcement to make. I'm actually going to take a step back and I'm going to take a pause on Tea Time after 126 episodes. So this is our final tea time for a little while. And I do have some ideas to talk about. It's a beautiful snowy day here on San Juan Island. We got a couple of inches over the last couple of days. And Atlas is hanging out with me, eating some hay. Ari is in the horse trailer eating some hay. And it's a beautiful winter's day. I know that there are hundreds of you who might watch this, in the coming weeks or months as I repost it on Patreon and on YouTube. But there's always a few of you that catch me live. So thank you for those of you who come and join me during the live session as well. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about priorities. That seemed like a good topic here. Yes, Trisha, I'm looking forward to seeing you at the clinics too. That is one of my priorities. I am looking forward to a really full schedule for 2022, starting in April, COVID permitting. I will be traveling and teaching clinics for half my time. 3 weeks out of every 6, I will be somewhere else in the world with some group of you all, talking about freedom-based training and what that means. When I'm not out teaching clinics, I will be home with these guys, continuing to learn the craft, huh, Atlas? So, let's see, Laurence says, all the best I can wish you for this new year. You make us so rich with all your knowledge. Merci. Thank you, Laurence. I am so happy to share what I learn. I am a teacher, but more than that, I'm a student. I'm a student of the horses. And I took some time away from social media over the last week to really meditate on my priorities. And being a student is one of my biggest priorities. So the time that I get to spend with the horses is so valuable. And having that week away from social media did give me more time for my biggest priority. So I decided, before I dive into traveling and teaching clinics in April, my clinic schedule is almost fully booked up for 2022. And I will be posting it in my newsletter on Sunday when I send out my newsletter for the new year. But before I dive into that intense schedule of traveling and teaching, which I love, I'm going to take a little extra time for my biggest priority, which is being a student of my horses. Spending time with them, listening to what they have to say to me, and prioritizing their needs over everything else. I will continue to teach my online classes. So for those of you guys who are signed up for my online classes, I look forward to really in-depth conversations with you and study with you where we get to be students side by side. I'm the teacher, but I'm also a continuing student. And I am going to study with my horses for January, February, March, where I really make that my priority. So for those of you guys who are used to seeing me on Facebook, I am going to take a couple of months away from Facebook to prioritize the time with my horses instead of the time on the computer. And I know that I'm going to miss you. I'm going to miss these tea times. I will be back. It's not forever. But after 2.5 years of being 100% consistent every week with tea time, I decided it was time for a bit of a break. I think that all of us have an ebb and a flow and cycles of learning and processing, and the more we can realize that nothing is forever, everything has an ebb and a flow. There's a little more of this, a little less of that, and then a little bit more of that, and a little less of this. And if we can embrace those ebbs and those flows and realize there is a time and a place for everything, that's really where we get the most enjoyment out of life. And that is the metric by which I want to measure my horse training. It's the measure of enjoyment that both the horse and the human can have together. Most horse training systems measure the metric of success by how many things you can make a horse do. And that's perfectly valid. There's a lot of value in that. But then I question, how much does the horse actually enjoy doing each one of those things? And what if we place the value on the metric of shared enjoyment between horse and human? How do we measure that? How do we establish that as a metric of progress? And that's something I'm really going to embrace and study over the next 3 months. In my first film, I had something to prove. I wanted to prove that we could use some standard metrics of success, some tasks that were accomplishable, and we could do them within a framework of choice and freedom, where the horse had some choice and some freedom about whether she wanted to do these things or not. And it was my feel and my timing, having a good conversation with her, that would prove to her these things were worth doing with me. I'm really pleased I made that first movie. I'm really pleased that that's how it all came out. I learned incredibly much. But now I really want to focus on this other metric. How do you measure the depth of enjoyment for both horse and human? How does that become the standard for knowing you've made progress? So the next 3 months, I am a student of enjoyment with my horses and studying how we measure that metric. So Karen says, Happy New Year, Elsa. Thank you for all you've taught me and my horses. Thank you, Karen. It's been just awesome to get a little insight into your herd and get to see your progress. And I'm so grateful to all of you guys who study with me. Getting to have a little bit of a backseat view of what makes you tick and what's important for your horses and your relationship does shed light on mine as well. And that's the beauty of being in community. And for that reason, I will be back to Facebook. I will be back in the social media community. It is highly valuable. I'm just going to take a cycle where it's not a huge part of my life and where I spend a little bit more time emphasized with the horses and a little less time emphasized on the computer. Oriana says, Hi Elsa, are you still going to do the Patreon updates? I am. I'm actually going to take the month of January off. I'm going to suspend everybody's membership so they don't have to pay for January. And I'm going to suspend everything for January. And then starting in February, I will start up the Patreon group again. That will give me a full month to really embrace my study as a student with my horses, embrace my study with my online students who are starting in the beginning of January. And then in February, I'll start picking up a little bit more and I'll just ease my way back up until I'm full steam again in April when I start my travel. So that is the plan for 2022. And thank you, Sal. I am looking forward to seeing you again as well next year. I was saying earlier, I've got a great list of clinics set up for 2022. I'll be traveling 3 weeks out of every 6, starting in April. I'm going to post that clinic schedule on Sunday in my newsletter. I'll post it here on Facebook as well. And then from that point on, I'm going to be off social media for probably 3 months. I'm going to pause my Patreon group for about a month, really focus on my personal study, and then dive back into my Patreon group in February and wind back up to Facebook starting again in April. So that's news. I'm wishing all you guys a wonderful, happy new year from me and Atlas. I thought it was fitting after 2.5 years of tea time to come back to the very same spot that I started when I called it Tea with Atlas. So here we are. Thank you, Atlas. It's a beautiful, snowy day in the Pacific Northwest. And I'm really happy to share it with you guys. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful finish to your holiday and a wonderful new year. And I will see you all starting again in April.